Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Nice. Let's get this video started. So, then when we're talking about the Qurios Crafting system, I do plan on making like a full, and again, it's not really a review, but I do want to talk about all the title update stuff in a coming video. That'll be soon. Don't know when, but soon. But today I just want to talk about Qurios Crafting, and I'll just say nothing really out of the expected out from the Qurios Crafting system, right? Pretty much exactly what we thought it was going to be, which is rather unfortunate. It's at least the armor side is loaded with RNG, and the weapon side, on the other hand, the weapon side is obviously there's no RNG involved; it's purely deterministic. But I gotta say, well, and I we'll talk about the weapons first because that's the simpler one. I am kind of disappointed with the weapon upgrades. It feels surprisingly limiting, because affinity is 3 pips. If you want your rampage decoration upgraded, that's 4 pips. It doesn't feel very good, man. I thought I would have a bit more wiggle room. I was kind of thinking it would be like maybe max 2 pips per upgrade, right? And I think the only one that does fit in that category is the elemental upgrades. Which I guess maybe they're just trying to make us focus even more on elemental than we currently do. But it just feels really limiting, man. Especially the rampage decoration one. If you want to run the rampage decoration, like if you want to go from like a 1 slot to a 2 slot, or 2 slot to a 3 slot, you have to use 4 of your pips. You can't even without unlocking more of the little pips. You can't even use the rampage decoration upgrade because it takes 4 pips, and you start with 3. And I gotta say, it's really annoying. It's really annoying. I thought you'd have a bit more room to experiment with it, honestly, right? So yeah, the weapon system's kind of disappointing, but it's fine. At the very least, there's no RNG involved, aside from getting the materials. But yeah. But let's get into the armor crafting, which I gotta say, pretty sad about that it did end up being exactly what we thought it was going to be. It's pure RNG, and there's, as far as I can tell, no way to influence what you get. But I gotta say that there's, especially now that I've had some time to play with it, it is incredibly strong. It's really, really strong. And it's crazy strong, right? You can make some pretty crazy builds, even with pretty mediocre rolls on your Qurios Crafting rolls on your gear. I've got some pretty mediocre rolls on mine, but it's like way better than my old build, at least in terms of quality of life, especially, right? I've gotten a lot of like quality of life augments on my gear. Like, I got like the spear bird one where, you randomly get a spear bird every 30 seconds or so. That's been so nice to have, especially combined with spirit bird collar. Been really, really nice. Honestly, I don't ever want to take off the piece of gear I have it on now. Which is actually what I wanted to talk about, in particular. So I gotta admit, before the update came out, I was thinking that, okay, it's going to be RNG, but at least it's going to open up more build potential, and we're going to build, do some more crazy stuff. But I have found that, and this is perhaps just me, perhaps this is just a mentality thing with me, but I have found myself very hesitant to experiment with builds because I have a fully Qurios crafted rolled set of armor. And again, all my rolls are pretty mediocre. I haven't gotten any like crazy good rolls, but even then, it's already so much better than what I had before that I'm incredibly hesitant to experiment because, well, that augmentation roll is stuck on that piece of gear, and I obviously can't move it to another piece of gear, right? And it just feels so much more limiting to try to experiment with new builds now, because that means I have to Qurios craft those build whatever armor I want to use for these new builds all over again. And especially combined with we already have talismans, which are RNG, but now even our armor pieces are RNG, and and depending on what you get on your gear, you know, what might be a really good roll for one build, right? You get you Qurios craft a gear, a piece of armor, and it's an incredibly good roll for one specific build you have, right? But in this, you want to use another piece of, you want to make, you're making a new build, and the base piece of gear is really good for that build, right? But now all of a sudden you have a piece of gear with a Qurios crafting roll that maybe isn't useful at all for your new build, but it's the the best piece of armor for the build, right? So now your options are, either make a new piece of gear and Qurios craft all over again, or just don't bother, right? And at first I was like, oh yeah, that's a bit cool. I actually have a reason to have multiple pieces of gear, for multiple builds. And at first I was thinking about it, like, okay, that's pretty cool. It's like this new. I've never really had to do that before, at least not that I can remember. But actually, after having played the update for quite a while at this point, I think it's been over 10 days since the update came out. I'm not enjoying it. I'm feeling, surprisingly enough, more constricted in my build options than before the update, and I gotta say, it doesn't feel good. I really want to see some deterministic crafting for Qurios crafting in the future, and I do think they could fix the system pretty easily, right? I do think this is a system that can be fixed and quite easily, and I'll tell you how. It's a couple ways they could do it, and all of them would be pretty easy. One, just give us options to craft. Pre-made rolls where it's like, okay, you spend this many resources and you get this roll, right? And they'll be like probably pretty middling, pretty mediocre rolls, but they'll be guaranteed. You can just slap it on your gear and you don't have to worry about it, right? And the other thing they could do is let you transfer augmentations between pieces of gear, right? Like, let's say you get a really good roll on something for like some off meta or a meme build, and it's like you're rolling Qurios crafting, and all of a sudden you just get like an absolute god roll on like an otherwise bad piece of gear, right? Well, if you could move that Qurios crafting roll from one piece of gear to the other, that would solve the problem, right? And if they really wanted to sort of like spice it up, I guess you could essentially like consume one piece of armor into the other to get the Qurios crafting roll, right? Like in that, with the Qurios, like they feed on like life, they're like parasites and stuff. And, it could be pretty fitting lore-wise, right? They could even fit some lore in there. But just something like that, I would like to see. But definitely, I want some crafting options where it's like, you pay these materials, you get this roll, and the transfer system would be cool. But yeah, but I mean that's really all I have to say about it. Overall, I don't like the system. Even more so than I thought I wouldn't like it before the update came out. The more I've spent time with it, the less I have liked it. And I gotta say, at first I saw it and was like, you know what, I'm gonna save scum it. And then it came out, I was like, yeah, I don't want to save scum it. But now I'm 100% save scumming my Qurios crafting rolls. 100%. My plan for the future is, get a couple dozen rolls worth of, materials, roll my gear until I get what I want. If I don't get it within this couple dozen rolls, back up my save, try again, and literally just save scum it until I get the roll I want. That's my plan going forward in the future for Qurios crafting, and that would be my advice to you guys as well. Just save scum it like that. If not, outright just use a save editor if you really want to. Obviously, I don't want to use a save editor myself. It feels a little too scummy, but I don't blame you if you do want to use one. And honestly, I think for the sake of your sanity, you probably should. But I'm going to be save scumming my Qurios crafting rolls. And that's just the way it is. But that's going to be it for this video. Again, I do plan on having like a proper review of the title update sometime soon. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll catch you guys in the next one.